Use of tasers has been approved in Ontario. The move to allow frontline officers to carry the weapons comes a month after the fatal shooting of teenager Semi Yatim. Joining me now in studio is Wretham. He is a former member of the Toronto Police Service Emergency Task Force Special Weapons Team, now Co-CEO of Investigative Solutions Network. Ron, let's talk about tasers, and many would want to know why they hadn't been approved before. I know they've been looked at before. I know that some senior officers on the Toronto Police Force do have them, but why wouldn't they be more widely used already?
Yeah, I have to think that it's a cost factor, but I think this announcement today is a good step forward. The way it is now, it's just sergeants that are carrying tasers. So if there's a platoon of officers out on the road and there's 20 officers, there might be 2 sergeants. In a busy our city is now with police calls, those 2 sergeants are often tied up on other issues, and it's difficult for them to arrive on a scene in a timely manner. So right now, the only option is to wait for a sergeant to get there if it is practical to use a taser.
So what are the options when a police officer, for example, one in Toronto, has when they go into a situation? We know they have a gun. What are the other weapons or initiatives or solutions that they have?
Yeah, and it does come down to training. All Toronto police officers in the province are all trained in self-defense, hand-to-hand tactics. They also carry an expandable baton, which can be used. The other option, of course, is containment and try to contain the situation until a sergeant arrives on the scene where a taser can be used, or better still, the emergency task force arrives on the scene with professional negotiators and people that can try to defuse the situation.
Now, what do you think about the Vancouver Police Force using these beanbag guns that they have been using? I think 20 to 30 officers there have them. They have been used successfully. How do those compare to something like a taser?
Well, I think the beanbag guns are a good option as well. It depends on the situation. It depends on the surroundings. Depends on the community members that are there, and so it comes down to which is the best use of force option. But the nice thing about the tasers, if you will, is that they're compact. The other nice thing about the tasers is there's a huge amount of accountability with each taser. Each taser contains a computer chip, which shows exactly when it was deployed, how long it was deployed. So there's no using a taser without it being reported. When those tasers are finished at the end of the shift, they're downloaded, and we know exactly when it was deployed, how long it was deployed, and so the officer is totally accountable.
And does it depend, is there a setting on the taser, having never seen one, for weight, for example, and height? Do you use a different setting depending on who you're dealing with?
No, the way that a taser works is it can be, probably the best analogy is with a telephone, if you will. So if I'm talking to you on the telephone and there's static on the telephone, that's what a taser does to the electronic brain waves within our body and the electronic nerves within our body. So it doesn't do any damage. It simply interrupts the normal flow of electricity that we all have flowing within our bodies all the time. So if you and I are talking on the phone and there's some interference, as soon as that interference stops, our conversation goes back to a normal conversation. It's exactly the same with a taser. So as soon as the taser is deployed, it causes that interruption in the nervous system, but as soon as it stopped, it goes back to a normal flow.
So it wouldn't make a difference whether it's used on a small, petite woman or a big, bulky guy.
Right, but the officer can decide how long it's deployed for.
Okay.
So on a smaller person, it doesn't need to be deployed as long.
So overall, what do you think of the decision today to allow each force basically to decide how they want to move forward?
I think it's a huge step forward. I do. I think it's a great move to have, and I believe that every frontline police officer in the province and the country should be equipped with a taser. I think the police officers out there need another alternative to the use of deadly force.
And this would be one of them.
Absolutely.
All right,
and it's a good one.
Wretham, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.